Hey, welcome to the channel. So, long before I was a college professor or an IT director, I worked in a restaurant out in California. And I started as a busboy. I ended up as a waiter and a trainer, one of the primary trainers. I helped rewrite the whole training manual. And I was just a kid, I was just in my teens and early 20s. But I'm going to tell you something right now. Working in a restaurant teaches you communication lessons very quickly because if you don't get the lessons, you don't work out. You don't make any money because it's all about taking care of your customers and taking care of them in a way that meets their needs. I mean, think about it, a restaurant. Everyone's gone to restaurants. If you've never even worked in one, you still know what it's like. It's hectic. There's high pressure, especially during busy times. There's always a lot of confusion. There's a lot of noise and distraction. And there's kids and there's people demanding your attention and there's high emotions. And some people are hangry and some people are just wanting to chill out. There's all kinds of misunderstandings and personalities. And you know what? Everything is then on a time rush because everyone wants to get in and get their meal and get out, and they don't want to have to wait forever. And so communication in a restaurant isn't theoretical, it's real. It's real to the number of dollars that you make coming out of that shift every time. I did it for 7 years and I loved it. But why is this important? Well, again, many people think that communication is about speaking well or writing well, and that's certainly a piece of it. I would argue that it's far more about the thinking that goes on before any of that happens, but there is a certain element of skill and style in both speaking and writing. But really, it's about being understood by people, and otherwise communication is not happening. Check out my video on it's one of my deep dive videos on how communication actually works. And if no one's understanding a message, then there's no communication happening. In other words, you're talking to a wall and nothing's happening. So communication isn't about just having this oratory skill or this great writing skill. Someone has to listen to it and understand it. Someone has to read the novel or read the email. So again, it's about understanding people. It's about reading situations. It's about asking good questions. It's about reducing confusion. It's about helping people, whether you're waiting tables, whether you're teaching, or whether you're, an employee of whatever business. Part of your job is helping other people do their job. And so if this is something that sounds crazy, it's not. I mean, this is like down in the trenches communication. In a restaurant, this is what happens when this breaks down, when communication breaks down. Orders are wrong. You ever had an order be wrong when you've gone out to eat and how frustrating and annoying that is? So the frustration level goes up, the tension goes up. You get guests who are angry. They start wanting to talk to your manager. Angry guests are not going to tip you as well as happy guests. So what ends up happening is poor service equals poor tips. You're there to make money. That's your job, and you're doing it poorly. So you're either not going to last very long, or you're going to be one of the people that they can never rely on. You just kind of fill a space, fill a shift, and the other people, the other employees who are working, who are good at it, will have to cover for you and constantly sort of take care of business while you can't, and they'll make a lot more money than you do. I know this because again, I lived that for 7 years. So that's what I'm saying. Before I was a teacher, before I was in IT leadership, I was doing this. I was listening and adapting and clarifying and solving problems and managing expectations. And I was interacting with all these different kind of people. And I made a lot of money. It was great. Of course, I spent it all, but that's maybe a subject for another day. The problem then that we have, and this is just people in general, is that we tend to focus on what it is we want to say. And that could be, I want to get my point across, so I'm not listening to you. Or oftentimes it's I'm, trying to to the response that I have to what you're saying, so I'm not really listening. So what I need to do is slow down and stop and understand first, clarify, and really remember that what I'm doing is helping others, or what I'm trying to do is helping others. Again, whether I'm trying to get their food order correct, or whether I'm trying to help other people as part of my business or the business that I work for have the information that they need so that they can do their job, so the entire business can be successful, so that we can all be successful. That's the goal. And so what happens when we're thinking like that, again, it's very common, is while someone's talking, we interrupt with the next thought that we have. We think our thoughts are more important than their thoughts. That's a respect issue that we need to work on. We assume, we don't actually hear everything they say. We make assumptions, and usually when we make assumptions, we're wrong. We overload people with details and information, or maybe we avoid directness. We fail to guide people, again, because we fail to really understand what the situation really is. So I've got 3 lessons for you that I learned while I was waiting tables way back in the 90s. It goes back a little ways. Again, yes, as you can tell from the gray, I'm a little old. 3 lessons that I learned. The first one is that listen first, talk second. Everyone's heard it, everyone knows it, but I had to learn it the hard way, as I said, in the moment. I think I've told this story on another video. I almost didn't get hired because I was very, very shy. And so I had to learn these lessons very, very quickly in order to succeed. And I did. So listen first, speak second. This is actually a biblical concept too. You'll find that in the book of James. Uh, Nevertheless, people tend to prepare their response for what someone's saying now. I'm trying to prepare my response, so my brain is sort of half listening and I'm thinking about what it is that I want to say instead of listening. And when you're at the table and you're talking to a number of guests and there's tables all around and they each have their demands and they're talking and there's conversations and there's babies crying, again, distractions galore, you have to listen to what the customer actually wants. And sometimes they don't know what they want, so that's part of the problem. Or sometimes they're unfamiliar with the restaurant that you're in. They're unfamiliar with the services that your business offers. They walk in the door or they call you on the phone and they kind of have an idea, but they don't really know. And so we need to find out what the guest wants, what the customer wants, what problem are they really trying to solve. And sometimes they don't know how to articulate that. And in a restaurant terms, that's here's a menu, here's our specials, what are those things? Can we make substitutions? You have to ask questions to find out if this is going to be to their taste. The last thing you want to do as a waiter is bring food out that the guest is not going to like for whatever reason. And if you can learn a little bit about what they do like and what they prefer, and you can guide them. That's another lesson we're going to talk about, but you've got to listen first. You've got to actually hear them. And yeah, sometimes that's hard in a loud restaurant. And so the lesson though is valid in all these other situations. Again, meetings, we need to hear the people that are speaking. What is it that they are saying? What challenges is it that they have that they want to get fixed? What problems are they running into? And if you're the team leader or the meeting leader or somehow associated with that, we've got to listen to what's actually going on. We've got to think about just all the conversations that happen in a leadership context. We've got to hear what's going on with the people that we are leading. We got to think about it in terms of teaching, something I do almost every day. What are my students getting? What are their needs? I have students that are very young. I have students that are incarcerated. I have students that are soldiers and students that are way older than me. It's kind of a great situation. And they all have little bit different needs. You got to ask, you got to think about it. If you're married, you have a relationship like that, this matters. Listen first, talk second. People respond better when they feel like they're understood. The second lesson that I learned, so the first lesson, remember, is to listen first, talk second. The second lesson is connected. It is ask good questions to help guide people. You want to make sure that the questions you ask are helping them open up and helping them understand what it is that they want, what it is that's challenging them, what it is that they're after. A server's going to say, a good one, when someone orders, would you like French fries with that? We always had competitions to see who could sell the most fresh squeezed orange juice because, yes, we made more money. If the ticket was higher, our tips were higher, and the bosses were happy. And so we would kind of have this contest. So every time someone ordered breakfast, would you like some fresh squeezed orange juice with that? We just made it, a couple hours ago. And about half the time they would say yes. Would you like large? Some of that's kind of leading them on a little bit, but you're asking these questions. Would you like a salad or soup with that? Do you want the croutons on that? Again, based on your questions and conversations, you might have determined that maybe they're, I don't know, eating keto or something like that. And so those are just reasonable questions to ask. What problems, what challenges are they trying to get around? And so 1 and 2 together, listen first, speak second, ask good questions. This is something that I heard referred to one time years and years ago from a gentleman named Gary Smalley. You may have heard of him. I believe he's passed on now, but he was a relationship counselor, and I have these DVDs. And one of the things he talked about was this thing he called drive-through talking. When you're in the drive-through and you pull up and you say, I'd like a Big Mac, a large fry, a vanilla shake, and a small Coke. And it comes back, and you're like, no, I don't understand what you're saying. And they say, oh yeah, you said a small fry and a large Coke and a Big Mac with no cheese, and you're like, no, I said a Big Mac, a large fry, a large vanilla shake, and a small Coke. And they repeat it back to you until you get it right. That's what you do. That's actual communication. That's actually having a conversation, believe it or not. And you're not answering what they said. You're asking questions to clarify what they said, to lessen and lower the misunderstanding that inevitably happens when anyone is communicating. I also talked about this, by the way, in my deep dive video on how communication works, because the reality is your audience always has some level of understanding that's different than what you attended. Again, just human nature. So you ask those questions, you reduce that, you lessen the amount of misunderstanding, you lessen the assumptions. All of those things happen when you are listening first, talking second. And so ask good questions. And then the third lesson that I really learned was that people really and actually want direct and honest suggestions. So they come into a restaurant. We had a lot of regulars at this one, but again, a lot of new people or irregular people. They don't know the menu by heart. They don't know what they want. Some people, maybe you're one that just orders the same thing at every restaurant, but they want to know, is this good? Is this special you've made something that I would like? And so again, ask them questions. What do you like? How do you like things cooked? Do you like this meat, that meat, this sort of thing? And then you might say, you know what? I don't think you're going to like that. Or I might say, and we would get in trouble for this sometimes, but I always believe that honesty was better, this direct honesty. They would say, what do you think about this, tofu, something, something? And I would say, you know what? I don't like tofu, or I don't like it, so I don't really eat it. But maybe I'll tell them, if I've heard this, other people really enjoy it. We sell a ton of them. I've never tried it, or I've had a bite of it. It's not to my taste. Or, you know what? I just don't think it's very good. We've done that before too. The boss never liked it. But I think the customer, the guest appreciate it. People appreciate honesty. They appreciate being treated with respect. This goes back again to the way I view ethical things and the way I try to live my life, and that the golden rule, okay? Treat people the way you want to be treated. I want honest suggestions. I want to be told the truth. I want to be respected. So I'm going to act respectful, and I'm going to be honest, and I'm going to tell the truth. And I did that in the restaurant, and more often than not, it paid off literally in better tips, happier customers, that kind of thing. So what it boils down to is you've got these 3 things that I learned, these 3 lessons. Listen first, talk second, ask really good questions that help you to understand what it is they want. So is it your customer? Is it your employee, your boss? What does your boss really want? Ask. Get clear, get direct, and then be honest. Be honest in your assessments, be honest in your suggestions, and respect and trust that what they're saying and what you're saying are good and correct because you have worked to get to a common understanding. So really just slow down, ask good questions, and be honest, honestly guide people. Those are three very important lessons that I learned about communication in the restaurant business. I worked at the same restaurant for 7 years. So this is important because this translates, as we said earlier, to meetings, to presentations, to emails, to memos, to phone calls. Just listen, just ask good questions, just be respectful, be direct, be helpful. That's what you want to do. I have a guide that you can download down below. It's called Track, Track, and it runs through a little framework of how to think clearly before you speak, before you write. And I would just encourage you to click on the link below in the description, and it's also in the comments, and download it, and you'll get a free little 10-page or so PDF that'll help you do that. Again, thank you for watching. I appreciate you very much.